Hey everybody, welcome back to Tales from the Post. We have Mr. Allen in the studio today.
Alan
Alan Burns.
Burns.
He was a seaman in the Navy. He assembled missiles, and he's going to tell us about it. So, thanks for coming to the studio, Iowa man.
Okay,
I'm friends with your stepson.
right.
His step grandson works as a cameraman. He's not in the studio today. Instead, Mr. Manrique is in, retired master sergeant. Still don't have a third mic, so you're not going to really be able to hear him too much this time. But the floor's all yours. You want to talk about where your story begins?
Well, I graduated in 1964, and back then Vietnam was going pretty good lick and stuff, and you either had to go off to junior college or college. You had get postponed for 2 years or 4 years, but no matter what you did, when you got done with the schooling, you're going to go off to service. I mean, the draft was there. It was so I stayed home for. I mean, God, the 65. I remember going to the New York World's Fair, and my mom uh, stopped the mail at the post office. When I got back, she sent me up to get the mail 2 weeks there, and there was a nice letter from me. It said, "Greetings from your president," and I knew it wasn't a birthday card or anything. So
Got a draft letter.
I got a draft letter. So this was in July, so I think it was middle of August. I went down to Fort Des Moines. The,
Fort Des Moines.
Yeah, that was in Iowa, and it was a draft. And I don't know, went down there.
That's where the current MEP station is.
Oh, is it? Is it a decommissioned post or something?
I don't know.
I've never heard of it.
Because that's where everybody in Iowa,
Yeah,
for MEPs, whatever service you're going into, you go there, and then they do the whole physical and all that, and then you go off to your regular. Then you go to your branch, and then they service the rest.
Well,
of it.
I went down there with a bunch of guys, took the pre-induction physical. Of course, back then you're alive and breathing, you're good to go. So we come back on the bus, and I remember I and my best friend that his name is Chuck Arndt. We went to grade school all the way through, and on the way back, he said, "I didn't want to go to Vietnam." He said, "I'm going to join the Navy." And he tried to talk me into going with him. Because that time you could do the buddy system, but the buddy system was only for boot camp. And I said, "No, I think I'm just going to take a chance and go with the draft." Because so we got back, because I got orders to go back to Fort Des Moines, and well, it was about the 1st of October, somewhere in there. Went down. I remember being there with 136 guys and going through the paperwork and stuff. For some reason, they called my name and 5 other guys over a loudspeaker. And they told us to go up to this room. Went up there and told us to go over and talk to this Navy recruiter sitting there.
They forced you.
Yeah, so 5 guys went with me, and we walked in there, and I thought they were going to try to talk me into joining the Navy, one last ditch effort. So I went in there, and the guy recruiter looked at me. He says, "Burns," he says, "how would you like to be in the Navy?" Of course, he said, "Now wait a minute, let me explain." He says, "We're going to draft so many people in the Navy." He says, "If you sign this paper, you will be in the Navy for just a 2 year straight draft, and you'll be the first man drafted in the United States Navy from Iowa since 1945.
So
But
since World War II ended,
Yeah,
all the way up to, you said this is 64?
65.
Almost.
October
Okay, so
65.
1965.
Right.
So 20 years,
Yeah.
you're the first person to be drafted in the Navy from
That's
Iowa.
what he said. I didn't check that with all the blood. So, but he said, I want you to understand before you say what you're going to do. He says, it'll be a 2 year straight draft Navy. He says, you're not getting any training or anything other than normal, because we have a person that was signed up for 4 years, they're going to get the training. And he says, So you understand, I don't know where you're going, what you're going to be doing, but it's a straight draft, 2 years, in and out. I signed the paper, and the other 5 guys never asked him any questions. They all signed the paper. We were there about an hour or so, processing. The Navy recruiter got out, locked the door. We went with him down out the front gate there. There was 2 yellow cabs picked us up. And 3 of us went to one, and the Navy recruiter and 3 other guys. We went right to the Des Moines airport. We got in there. There's a plane out there. They had taken away the ramp, and they shut the engines off, and they drove a truck up with the ladders up, and we went out, got onto the plane, and we got in there. There was no place to sit. I and one guy went back in the mess area and sat down there, and I don't know where everybody, other 4 guys got set somewhere.
And this is you going to your basic
I'm
training.
doing, yeah. This was about 6 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock, and we flew right into O'Hare, and we got there O'Hare. Now the Navy guy didn't go with us; he just got us on the plane. We got to O'Hare. There was a Navy band waiting for us, all 6 of us. We got in that, went to the Great Lakes Naval Weapons Station. Great Lakes Training Station. We went in there. The time we got there was about 9 o'clock at night. They took us to it wasn't a barracks, it was just a building with 4 or 5 beds in it. It was 9 o'clock at night. We went there that night. The next day, they come and got us, and we spent the whole day being processed and drafted into the Navy. Got our clothes, got everything. And the 6 of us stayed together for 6 weeks. I was in and out of basic training in 6 weeks flat.
That's fast.
Then we come home. I was home for about 2 weeks. And now, then I was going strong. I wasn't too scared, but I wasn't too enthused. But I got drafted in the Navy. I'm 20 years old, kind of full of piss and vinegar. So I was happy not, because there's no Navy in Vietnam that I knew of. So.
Oh, they had them there. Brown
I
water.
didn't know that. Yeah, I found out later up and down that river was a safe place to be. But I figured Atlantic Fleet, Europe, Pacific Fleet, Hawaii and stuff. I mean, I was kind of looking forward to
exploring the world.
Seeing the world. Well, guess what? I got my orders at the boot camp opened up. It says, you're stationed at Yorktown Naval Weapons Station, Yorktown, Virginia. I go, what?
You ain't leaving.
I did. So you had no choice. So 3 of us went to Yorktown Naval Weapons Station. The other 3 guys went to Bainbridge, Maryland.
So, and you said you just went to basic. You didn't have a tech school or an AIT or anything.
No.
So they didn't teach you how to assemble these explosives.
No.
It was all OJT?
I don't know.
On-job training?
Yeah. So I went. I went home.
So here, deal with these explosives. By the way, we're not going to tell you how. That's a lot of faith.
Well, I tell you what, I was kind of disappointed because I really wanted to go see the world. I've been in the Navy. You're supposed to go see things. But my mom was very, very happy. She was happy as hell that, So I went home for about 2 weeks leave. Went to Yorktown, Virginia. Reporters in there. In the first month, I had KP duty like everybody else. And then after that, I was stationed to Targeted Division Muscle for missiles. And I went down there, and I tell you honestly, the best job I had in my life. I mean, you could eat off the floor. I had smocks. I looked like a doctor. It was really a nice duty.
You're doing Breaking Bad stuff with explosives.
Well,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was.
I mean, that powder's explosive. 1 grain of it. Ask anybody who's ever done reloads. If that grain counts off, bye finger.
Well, how it was set up. I was on the York River. Okay, 50 miles down there was Norfolk. The ships would come up to our base at the weapons station, and they drop off the arsenal or the missiles. Then they go up to Cheatham Annex, which is about 5 miles up the York River. That was Fly Depot. They would be there for a month. We would work the missiles and read them. Then they'd come back down, pick it up, and go back out, and then go back over to Asia and stuff.
So about how many ships would y'all do in a week?
Oh,
Is it like a long job where one battleship or destroyer or what have you is?
no. We had other missiles there to work on. Sometimes we would have missiles. I mean, yeah, missiles ready to go and stuff. So
you had a bunch of different missiles at that duty station?
We had that one missile we worked on, but we had all the components and everything there. We could send one. So, but we usually took the old ones, took everything apart, the guidance systems and everything, put the ones we already reworked back on, and they'd be up there for about a month because they give the guys time off, and then when they come down, we put the missile back on, and out they would go. So I don't know how many. We was busy all the time, but I don't know how many ships came and went and stuff there.
Do you still remember the steps on how to assemble it and disassemble?
Oh, I can do it today.
The missiles aren't even in use anymore, correct?
Right. In
So,
fact,
you can talk about it. That means it won't be classified, and I won't have CIA or anybody knocking at my door.
After 66 years, compared to what I worked on and what you have today, I have BB guns, In fact, about 5 years ago, I was with my daughters out to Yorktown, Virginia, and I got to take them on base. And the missile I used to work on, I was supposed to be top secret, was sitting there in the park explaining how they worked and everything. So the girls, my daughters, got to see what the missile I worked on.
Well, Paul was telling me a story about you met somebody that thanked you because the missiles you worked on saved his life.
Yeah. I always thought, okay, on the weapons station, our security was done by Marines. And it was a very easy duty, and they come back from Vietnam. And so I kind of took some classes and could you walking up here at night with a guy that's been through hell, they get talking and stuff. And I always kind of thought what I did really, I wasn't in combat, I wasn't in danger. In fact, the best job I ever had in my life was a job I was doing in the service. And I always thought that I know it was a Vietnam era, but I wasn't, in no danger. So I thought, but this one guy I talked to, and this is when I come home, it was years later when I worked in the factory, and he told me a story. He said, Al, you did a big part. And when he said, I'm telling you, I was in Vietnam, and we went into this stronghold, a bunker, and he said, we walked in there, there was no Viet Cong at all. But he said, we started coming out, and he said, they came up from all over. And we went back, followed us back, and we got inside the bunker. We got in there, and he said, I remember laying in that bunker and calling in coordinates for the Navy and dropping my missiles, or my missile, with the missile. He says, when we went in there, it was jungle, and he said, when I come out, he said, it looked like a Iowa plowed field. It was just pulverized.
Just decimated everything.
Decimated everything. And he says, we drove out of there and we never seen one Viet Cong. And he says, I remember laying in that bunker being bounced off the floor every time. And he said, they dropped them missiles in there where they're supposed to. And he said, if you hadn't done your job, I wouldn't be here telling you that. That made me feel a little bit better that, I actually participated in some,
Gives you that fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
You did something to protect.
Yeah. He said, if you did your job like everybody else, support team, I wouldn't be here telling you that because we never would have got out of there without that gown being pulverized by what you did. Which made me feel, made me realize that you're all a team, and just because
the grunt pogue argument kind of goes out the window.
Right. For every fighter pilot, there's 20 guys in the ground support. Yeah. Well, I was a support team. I was safe, and all that stuff. But yeah, you feel maybe feel a bit better,
It's the same here. Back in the stateside, infantry don't really care about us. I was transportation. I drove trucks.
Yeah.
But whenever we're out and they need water, because we'd taken water buffaloes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big green cage with a water tank on it. There's a whole pump system. They run out of water pretty fast. Yeah. They're pretty happy whenever we come up with food and the water.
Yeah.
And then ammunition, stuff like that.
It's a sport team. You're a team. And one link is just important than the other link.
Yeah. We all need each other. Otherwise, the job wouldn't exist.
But I said, I walked that pier with guys that sit there and start crying and stuff, and all you could do is listen. And I thank Almighty God I didn't have to witness that. But, they do I don't know, it makes you feel kind of funny. But after he talked to me, I felt, okay, we were all a team. I didn't have to be in the bad part, but I was part of it. But
so you only did 2 years. You said you loved the job. Why did you decide to get out?
Didn't love it that much.
Well, tell them right after you got out, you stayed in Virginia for like a year.
Yeah.
Tell them that.
Well, I got out and I come home, and I don't know why I thought nothing would change at home, But I had met a girl when I was in the service, and I come home. And I went back out, but she was still in high school, so I spent another year and a half out there. Well, I went down to the weapons station because it was civil service too on there, and I put in a job there. And guess what? The entire division that I was working at was military, ran it, and the service were our inspectors. And they were changing it all over to civilian.
So you were going to do the same job just on the civilian side of the contractor?
Well, I go in there, and I just started. And the guy come to me and said, Al, how about, because I knew all the parts to that missile.
You'd done it for 2 years?
Yeah. So he was interested in me setting up the slide depot for all the parts and stuff. So I was supposed to do that.
Contractor jobs always pay more than the...
Well, the girl graduated from high school, I married her, and for some dumbass reason, I decided to move back to Iowa. So which is the dumbest mistake I ever made in my life, because I was riding in the ground floor, could have done it, but I moved back to Iowa.
Well, it's a lot better than other military stories. I've had a guest on here who married a stripper, made it last for, I want to say, 23 years.
Yeah.
Typical military stories usually involves tattoos, strippers, and financing a car at so much percent interest, and lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
It's pretty much universally shared.
No, I should have just stayed there, but I said we'd come back here because my family was here and everything.
You get homesick?
Yeah. You do things when you're dumber. You get a lot smarter when you get older.
Well, that would have been a pretty great transition because you did it in the military. Yeah. You were going to do the same job, just a lot higher pay.
Yep. I could have stayed there.
So what did you end up going into?
Well, I come back to... I'm born and raised in Mason City, and while I was in the service, my two sisters moved down to Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area. So I stopped there with a new bride, and 41 years later, I'm still there. And I worked at two companies. I worked at Link Belt Speeder, which makes heavy-duty crawlers, red and white. And then I spent 20 years there, and that closed down that shop. Then I spent with Terex, which makes rock crushers, heavy duty equipment. I spent 20 years on that, and that closed that thing up. And I was 66 years old, and I closed down 2 factories. And I said, that's it. I'm done. So that,
Rock crushers are cool, but not as cool as missiles.
no.
Well, what did you do at those companies?
Well, in Link Belt, I started at a rough grind, and then they offered me a job of teaching me how to weld and on the job training.
Was it arc, MIG, TIG,
It was
pipe,
wire welding and stick welding.
MIG and stick?
Yeah, MIG wire. But I had to sign a contract saying that they trained me, I had to stay in that weld group for a year, which I did. I spent about 4 or 5 years welder and stuff. Then I got thinking, uh, I didn't want to do all smoke the rest of my life and stuff, and so I did a few other things. I went to maintenance and stuff, and then Link Belt they closed down. They didn't lay out. They closed it, moved down to Kentucky, and then they offered us to go to the local junior college to train anything you want. So I took uh, industrial testing, which is mag powder, and then it's kind of like taking an X-ray of a weld to see if there's any
the inspectors to make sure there's no hairline fractures or anything,
porosity and all that. So I took that.
Make sure you got proper penetration.
Yeah, so
penetration.
I took that to tie with my welding, and then I took residential commercial maintenance program on top of it. Well, then when I went to Terex, I got in there because they needed welders, so that got me into that. And
there's lots of good money in welding,
yeah,
especially if you're an underwater welder or a pipe welder. Woo!
This was just rock crushers and stuff like that. That got me in the door, and I did that for a couple of years. Then that residential commercial maintenance program, and I got into maintenance and stuff. So I spent 20 years in that with Terra. I said I was 65. I closed down 2 companies. And
you outlasted 2 businesses.
Yep. And I have 2 pensions. I have Social Security, and my wife has a pension from community college. And then so I got about 3 pensions and 2 Social Securities. So we're fine, Yeah. I can't go on a cruise every month. I don't do that anyway,
You can't get me out. That's why I'd never joined the Navy. You cannot. For one, you can't throw me out of a plane, and 2, I'm not jumping on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Well, I tell you what, I've been coming down to Florida for 12 years now. I finally stopped there at, where am I? Mobile, Alabama, and I got in that.
Oh, you see the USS Alabama and all?
I went tour of that. By golly, I'm going to get on a ship one way or the other.
Yeah,
they finally got on my ship.
They usually got it. What is that? The Delta, I think it is. It's I-10 goes right through that tunnel, and you can see the USS Alabama.
I passed that several times in the last 12 years coming down there, and I finally said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on a Navy ship." By golly, you know what? I'm glad I didn't get on a Navy ship.
The sleeping area is not that great.
Oh my God! I went through that, and tight as that was, and no.
My grandfather, before he died of cancer, used to work at a place there in Mobile called U.S. Coatings. They would sandblast, water blast the sides of the ship and repaint stuff like that. He was the electrician there that made sure everything kept running. And then one of my cousins, or technically my uncle, but he's the same age as me, he still works up there. But they do that. They work on the ships and stuff there.
Well, the last month I was at the weapons station.
The one in Virginia?
In Virginia. Yorktown, Virginia.
You just go back to visit, like a high school reunion, or?
No. I was the last month I was in the service.
Oh, I thought you said last month you went there.
No. Last month I was in the service.
Okay.
I went there. Well, took my girlfriend and her sister, and I went down to the Norfolk and went down on the pier. I was going to see me some ships and stuff, I didn't get on one, but I did go down and walk down the Navy pier so I could see.
Well, it sounds like you had a great run. At least you had fun.
I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy enough to want to stay in, But I mean, it was a good experience, and I really enjoyed. I got to tell you a funny story. When I was in grade school, there was a guy named Chuck Arndt and Alan Byrne.
The
So
same Chuck that tried to get you to enlist with him?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we went through grade school, junior high, high school. Coming back, he says, trying to get me to buddy up with him and join himself. And I, no, so he joins the United States Navy. And I thought, well, I'm never going to see that boy again, you know. Well, guess what? I'm in Great Lakes Training Center. Guess who's in my thing? Chuck Arndt.
So you still had the buddy system
I said,
without getting the buddy
yeah.
system.
And he says, what the hell you do? You join without me? I didn't join, Chuck. I'm drafted. He goes, what? I said, yeah. He says, swell old boy. I got 4 years and you got 2, and we're standing side by side in the same unit. I said, yeah.
But he did get to pick his job and
Yes,
everything,
he
right?
did. Yeah. So
I wonder if he ever made it on a ship.
the rest of the story is what I told you last month. I went down to the pier, walking down there, and the guy always says, "You SOB like a son." And hey, hi Chuck, how you doing? You said, I got 2 more years. I said, I'm getting out next month. So
Obviously, he did not enjoy the Navy as
oh,
much as.
he's on the ship. I don't know. That's the only time I seen him was up on the ship yelling at me. So then we get out of service, and I go to my 10-year class reunion. I walk in there, his wife's sitting there, and he turns to his wife and says, see, this guy is the luckiest son. It's hoping in the world. And hi, Chuck, you making it all right? Yeah, we're both hoping. That's the last time I see him in 10 years. But he wasn't there at the other class reunions. But he thinks I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And I am. I really am.
Tell your story about your other buddy that went from, was it Iceland or New York?
Well, that's my uncle.
Or your uncle, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's the timer
We're
at?
at 27.
Oh, perfect. We're having fun. Yeah, we're having fun. I was worried the video was getting too long, but no, we're going great.
I had 2 uncles. One was Uncle Elton. He was on the destroyer.
This is one of your World War II uncles?
Yeah. Uncle Chet.
Wait, in the Pacific? Do you remember the ship he was on?
No, I don't remember. Elton was on a destroyer, and I don't know the. I remember my grandma having a picture on the wall of this destroyer, but my cousin, his daughter, got the thing. I don't know which one it is. Okay, my uncle Buck. He was in the Navy,
I love that movie, by the way.
and
Uncle Buck.
no, it's Uncle Chet. Uncle Chet. They sent him to Graceland. Iceland. Sent him to Iceland. He got on the ship.
Graceland's in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. He's in Iceland. He got on the ship. This is what he come down the East Coast, and his job was to test the water, the temperature of the water.
So during World War II.
During World War II.
Yeah, but they didn't have it nowhere near the advances that we have.
No, I don't. That was his job. That's what he said. They came down the United States, down to South America, went around the Horn, come back up. They stopped at different ports. Went up to Seattle, went up to Anchorage, Alaska, and the war ended. They took him back to Seattle, and he got out. He'd never seen any of.
How long did that trip last for him to go from Iceland? You said he went all the way down
around South America and up the side.
Why not use the Panama Canal? If they were trying to get in a rush to get to the Pacific, you imagine they'd use the Panama Canal.
I don't think of the rest. That's all he said. He went down there and went around to Anchorage. The war ended. They took him back to Seattle, and he got out and went home. That's his war story.
It's a hell of a voyage, I guess.
Elton told one time, he said,
it was 3 continents.
Yeah. My Uncle Elton was on the destroyer, and he's always telling the story. They were in a firefight and used all their ammunition. They were coming back to supply people. He said somewhere in the Pacific, there's 2 zeros come out, and they circled the ship.
Japanese zeros.
Yep. And they went to all their points, and their guns and everything, and they trained them, and they circled twice, and then they left. Elvis said, we didn't even have a 45 shell to throw at them. There was nothing. But they bluffed them. He said, I was never so scared in my life.
I mean, do you know where they were at that time?
Somewhere in the Pacific. I don't know.
Close to Hawaii or Wake Island, maybe?
I don't really know. But he was in a battleship, so he was in some pretty heavy duty battles and stuff. But he come home.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can either talk a little bit more or we can cut this story short, however you want to do it.
I don't care. I said, I come back and I stop at Cedar Rapids with my 2 sisters and spent the next 40 years there. And then I retired. And I retired the year that it's always been my bucket list. I want to retire to go to Alaska. I wanted to do that. And Paul somehow worked it out so he could be in Alaska the last year that I retired, his last year. So I jumped in a truck and the fifth boat and I drove all the way to Alaska and back. And I was up there from Iowa.
You're crazy.
I know.
Did you take the ferry?
No.
You went through Canada?
Yeah, I went up to Canada, went across Canada, went to Yukon, drove all the way through Alaska up to Fairbanks. I was gone for 2.5 months.
Did he take you on the bombing range that he's in charge of?
Yeah.
You can see all the Russian equipment.
But he went in the summertime, so going through Canada. But the only thing you ran into was the mudslide.
Yeah.
Right? Or right before the Yukon, or right around there.
Well, we was up there and we went to I can't name of that. I was headed up to Fairbanks. I can't remember what town. It's where all the signposts are.
Well, how was the permafrost? Because you talk about that in your video where whenever the snow and everything melts, the roads all shift and all that.
But he left like
That's
end of May.
1st of June.
Yeah, got up there around 1st of June.
No,
you left. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the roads weren't messed up by then? No. I mean, that's towards the end of spring.
I can't remember
Everything melts in May.
Something Lake. Not Jackson.
I don't remember. But it was up in the northwest side of.
Yeah. It was up in the Yukon. We got up in there and I loaded up with gas and taken off up there and got flagged down by the highway maintenance people and said, where are you going? I said, I'm heading to Fairbanks. He said, we got 7 bridges all washed up. He said, you're not going anywhere. So I turned around and went back to that lake. There's about 1,500 people in that town, and there's 6,000 of us come back there.
Wow.
And we were parked in there. I mean, I was plugged into everybody else. I mean, we're in there like sardines and stuff. But everybody in the same boat. See? And you couldn't go back because you had to go around the big lake where that flooded. And then the bridges was washed out ahead of time. So you're kind of stuck in Watson Lake. And we was there for 4 days. And we're all in the same boat. And now I was retired, so I had plenty of time.
Dawson City.
Huh?
Dawson City.
No, Watson Lake.
Okay.
Well, I was retired, so I had plenty of time. A lot of people had a couple of weeks vacation. They had to cancel it and turn around and go back or something. So we was there for 4 days. Nobody in, nobody out. I mean, the semis all told that there was food and the gas. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. And the only way of communication was the library was open 24 hours a day and we could use it on a computer. I let Paul know that we were stuck there, and I let my girls know back in the States that we couldn't come back. We just stuck, But
Stuck between a
rock and a hard place.
Well, I was trying to put it like bridge in a river run. But
so we sat there for a day and we had a good time. Everybody was partying out there in the parking lot and stuff. And
is that in Canada or
no? This is in the Yukon.
This is up in Alaska.
Yeah.
It's in Canada.
Oh, is it? Okay. In Canada, Yukon territory. And so we sat there 4 days. And finally, the authorities come along and says, okay, we want to transport, gas transport in the semi food truck. They go first. There was nothing up the line there,
Yeah.
you know. So they got to go, and then on the fifth day, we were allowed to go. Now I stayed another day because of all the traffic and everything. And then on the sixth day, we started up through there because you had to. They had the transport go up there and fill up the gas station and stuff like that. Then we had no more trouble going up there. I drove 9,000 miles up and around the back. I had a flat tire on the trailer in the campground. Picked up a nail. I put the spare on. And when I got to Fairbanks, I fixed the tire and stuff. But
So even after you got out of the Navy, you're still hanging around a bunch of military stuff.
well,
I think you liked it a lot more than you say
yeah,
you did.
I should have stayed at the weapons station when I went back there.
I mean, government pension
Yeah.
and the benefits,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The VA care, whatever disability rating you may have incurred, educational purposes.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of benefits to staying in. But, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to getting out, too. If you can do the same job as a contractor and get paid almost twice as much.
Well, I was pretty lucky to get drafted in the Navy. I wasn't going to re-enlist and see what happened till the days again.
Well, you never went through a tech school, so your MOS would have been weird because you didn't actually have one. You'd have been a general thing, so they could have kind of thrown you into whatever, but they'd have still had to send you to your training for it first.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're already good at making that rocket or bomb or whatever other explosives that may have been made in that factory, chances are they probably would have kept you there.
Yeah.
Because that's a very temperamental job. If you mess up, it can mean life and death in some cases.
Yeah. Well, when I went in there, I said, you allowed one mistake and nobody's going to chew your ass.
Yeah. Because they're going to have to find you.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to be over here and over there all at the same time.
Yep. It was a good job. And I should have went back there as a civilian. I should have stayed with it. But, you do dumb things.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yep.
Even a blind man's hindsight's 20/20.
Yep. Yep. I agree. But I come home and I made a pretty good living. I always had a job and everything. I enjoyed what I did. But I said, when I close out 2 factories, I'm 65. I'm done. Heck with it.
So I end every episode with 2 things. One, what would you like to pass along to the new recruits? Some piece of advice that you'd like to give them to make their life a little bit easier. And what does the civilian population not understand that you wish they did? Or they confuse it for something else?
Well, it was a different time when I went in because Vietnam was going strong, and everybody was concerned about that. I don't say but I said I think going in the service is a very good experience. I think young men should do it. It teaches you to be a team, work together, and like I said, one link is just important to the other one and stuff, and that's the good thing. And if you're young and you're single, it's kind of a good experience. It's fun to
You travel the world.
you go to see things. I went from a town of 40,000 people and
to a family of 3 million-ish.
Yeah, and then it was and I got to meet a lot of people all over the United States when you're in the service. I mean, and you're all thrown in the same pot together, and first thing you're just good friends and stuff.
Yep, you'll be polar opposites. One person from New York, one person from California, different accents, different cultures, whatever. Next thing you know, they're hanging out. I don't personally like certain types of music, like metalcore type stuff where they're yelling. But I've sat in a truck for 8 hours where they had control of the radio, and next thing you know, I'm yelling out the window to the song. And it's trauma bonding, I guess. Yeah. Trauma bonding's
Well, my when I was in weapon station, I was in KP. There's a guy came from Omaha, Nebraska. His name was Ray Williams, and we just hit it off. And he was my friend and also in service. I got out of service. He went back to Omaha, come back, and he joined me in Virginia for a year. And then he got married, I got married, and I went back to Iowa. He stayed in Virginia, and we had these two uh, cups for coffee. We painted on it, and so it turned out he's from Omaha. When he would come back to Omaha, I'd have the cups, and then he'd say, oh, "I'm coming for coffee. I'll bring out the cups." And I said, "Okay." Well, then he'd take the cups to Virginia, where my wife was, or lived, born and raised. So I'd go there, call him up, then bring up cups. We're going to have coffee. So this goes back and forth for about 8 years.
So you made friends, and in some cases, lifelong friends.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be. But his grandmother passed away in Chicago, and he called me out and said, he lived in Virginia. He called me out and he said, Al, I'm going to go to Chicago, bury my grandmother, and I'll get the cups out. I want to fly over, see you before I go back. I said, okay. I got the cups out. Ray crashed, landed, and died in here. Anyway, at his grandmother's funeral.
Sorry to hear that.
And I lost a good friend. I still have the cups. He's got a boy. The boy was about 2 years old when all this happened. I caught up with the boy and give him the cups for him and his grandson. I gave the cups to. But I know it still bothers me after all these years.
I mean, yeah, you're.
We were good friends, and after service when they back and forth, it was just kind of crazy having coffee. But my gosh, I had the cups, and he never made it for the last coffee. it just that kind of bothered me today.
Well, thanks for sharing. I'd love to think of a high note we could end on. Something to that way the last thought's not
Well,
a sad one, but
I enjoyed the service. I learned a lot. I was part of a team. It was the best job I've ever had in my life. I should have went back and stayed there when I had the opportunity. But you kind of do stupid things when you're young, and it all worked out the way God intended. I come home, and everything worked fine. I don't regret none of it.
well, thanks for coming on to the show.
Okay.
I hope y'all enjoyed. This has been Seaman Alan Burns.
All right.
Catch us next time.